Hey guys, welcome to the Liquidicast. I'm Ron. I'm joined here today by Thomas and Nikola. Nikola works at Influencer.Club. We're super excited to have him on the podcast. I'm going to let Nikola introduce himself a little more in depth, but yeah, I'll pass it over to Thomas because Thomas is kind of the one who set up this trio, and I think it's a super interesting conversation awaits us. So Thomas, go ahead and take it away.
Sure. So I came across your work on, I believe it was on LinkedIn, where I first came
Probably.
across your newsletter, which I think is one of the best like weekly summaries of what is happening in the space called the creator economy, which of course is like an emerging term. And you caught it, grabbed it, and ran away with it. And of course, what you are doing now professionally, and we will learn more from it in a bit. You are also fully embedded in this world, focusing on what is happening and working with companies active in the space, like ours. Full disclosure, we work together as well. But let's focus a bit more on what's currently happening in the creator economy space, both on the creator side, but also on the side of companies trying to be in this field, because that is actually what I think you know a lot about. For today's conversation, which I'm really looking forward to. But Nicola, probably give us a bit of an intro about who you are and how you ended up working in the creator economy and founding your company.
Oh, that's an interesting topic. So first of all, pleasure to be here, guys. Thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to talk to you. Seems like a good format. So I'm Nikola. I'm the CEO of Influencers Club. We so I'll give you the full story. We started off like initially, I think it was like all the way back to 2016, something like that. We started because I'm a computer scientist. Sorry, I was studying computer science, and I worked as a developer for like I think 6 years, something like that, before founding my own startup. And while doing that, because the three co-founders were engineers, somebody had to do the marketing. So I was just like, I think the only guy that wanted that job, or to be more precise, had to do that job. So I started looking into that, and one of the ways that we grew that app was through the beginnings of influencer marketing, and then realizing that all these people have a lot of potential. So once we exited that company, me and my brother, he's now my co-founder of Influencers Club. We started building a small tool on the side that we were selling to creators or businesses, specifically on Instagram, that were selling something. So it was a small. Now it's an official part of the API. Back then it wasn't, but for example, somebody could text you a certain keyword, and you could reply with a templated message automatically. Um, what that provided was the ability of creators that had a lot of DMs to sort of be able to sell stuff that they were selling through DMs without actually paying attention to a lot of the spam messages out there. What we realized along the way was that first of all, as the space matures, I was sort of comparing that to the B2B space, where you have these individuals that were previously not very important. It was just people posting videos and pictures on social. They were sort of started getting the eyeballs, and we caught the beginning, I think, of the influencer marketing space just in general. But my thought was, as these people are getting more money and as they become more important for the economy, they will be more important business wise, and companies will start creating tools for them to help them manage their team, manage their growth, manage their relationships, like anything, right? So, and at the same time, we were selling to them. So I wrote a blog post on how I think the creator economy will evolve and how I think these people will become more important as time goes by, and then also address the need of having different data so you can target people better than what was currently out there. Because the influencer dashboards, they're doing a great thing, like the Greens and Creator IQs of the world, hype auditors, and all those guys. They're doing a great job at companies that want to do influencer marketing. However, when you turn things around and look at creators as businesses, they're not really doing anything around the toolings they use, how big is their community, are they selling something, what are they selling, which providers are they selling on, how big is their team, who's in their team, right? Like all the other aspects that sort of looks at creators as businesses. We needed that, so we started building it ourselves. I wrote a blog post, forgot about the blog post. I was supposed to move to the States because I worked for a company there for like 3.5 years. Um, and so I'm giving you the full, like, this is a long intro, but I think it's important.
Yeah, but I think it's
Uh,
super interesting because also there are so many topics and streams converging into your answer that we will definitely
Yeah.
jump into. So but yeah, now you're working in the US.
so I'm working in the US and we're building this on the side. I posted a blog post on Medium and just literally forgot about it for like 4 years. And then because I was on and off from the States, like because I'm from Macedonia, so I was like I would spend 3-4 months in the US, then come back,
When
then
the
spend
states
3 and 4 months again.
when the
San
states
San
were you
Francisco.
San Fran, all right.
And 2020, so late 2019, my company that I was working for got bought by a private equity fund. So somebody was supposed to take over my work visa, and there was this company in Stana that I was working that I got employed by that took over my visa, but they were selling to. I guess I'm the lucky charm, but they were selling to IBM at the exact same time that I joined. Sorry,
Mhm.
after like a few months. So I had to choose between going to the States, living permanently, because that was the point. I just got the visa to relocate permanently.
Yeah.
Or what I saw then was that my blog post that I wrote 4 years ago now has like 7, 9,000 views in a month regularly. So I was
Okay.
like, this is interesting because previously when I
Interesting data
monitored,
point. Yeah.
yeah, when I monitored the first year, it got like 20, 30, 100 maybe tops. So I'm like, okay, first of all, we started ranking. Can I put up a form and see whether people need the data that we had? So we did that, and within literally 24 hours of me putting up a form, we got our first customer. So
Mhm.
it's IBM and moving permanently to the States, or there's this thing that generated $40. That was our first sale. It was 40 bucks, but it was proof of concept, right? It was not about the money. It was the
Nicola,
possibility of yeah.
what was the topic of this blog post?
I can even send you. It was how I think that as the creator economy evolves, how I think that email as a channel and just selling to creators will become increasingly important, and some of our learnings in the space. And there are a lot of them, right? Like, how do you approach creators the right way? How do you make the message more relatable? How do you pick the right creators? Because it's not just about engagement and how many followers they have. It's about I mean, depending on the tool, right? But are these people making money? Are they selling something? What kind of industry they're working with? So on and so forth.
Yeah.
So first customer within a day, and I was really thinking, man, that was I think the hardest decision I've made in my life, where I just called the embassy and I was like, look, guys, I'm not taking the visa because they were supposed to put the stamp. So I'm just like, please don't do it because I'm not leaving. And that dude called me twice to confirm because I think I still am the only Macedonian that got that and gave it up. So yeah, that's how we started.
Wow.
And so when you use two different terminologies in your intro, you talked about influencers and you also talked about creators, and I think so influencer marketing is, you mentioned like 2016, around this time it was already a big topic. Influencer marketing, then corporates professionalized, and I guess creator economy as a term really started to become more adapted like maybe 4 years ago, 3 4 years ago is when i
Yeah.
when i saw the term become more regularly used in like the web, internet, people scene, and then it branched out from there, and now it's quite common terminology. So what is the difference for you, first of all, between an influencer and a creator, if there is any in your book?
So it's a fine line, right? And a lot of the influencers that were, and we call them and branded them as influencers, now are sort of, in my definition, moving towards the creator bucket. But I would say that uh, people that are so in my opinion, influencers are still the sort of generalists, like the general, let's say, fitness model that isn't really doing anything other than um, making great content, beautiful content, and working with advertisers to monetize. On the other hand, creators are more about showing their skill, that not necessarily tied to the follower count. It can be a creator that has 2,000 followers but is still perfected one niche. They're creating businesses. They're making money off of um, what they can offer as value and as knowledge to the community. So it's about, I would say, really the business part versus just the advertising part. That in my
I
book,
was,
right?
I mean, and in my opinion, I almost thought there was no difference. And as you started to answer them, like, damn, like, is there even a difference at this point? And what came to my mind was like, an influencer, at least this is like my layman's take on it, right? Like, an influencer is somebody who leverages like attention and eyeballs, while like a creator is someone who leverages content. And it might not be attention on
Ah, I
them
love it.
specifically, but it could be like the thing that they're producing. But I don't
Uh,
know, like, because you can kind of have both, right? You can kind of interchange both of those.
No, of course, but I think both of you are really on spot because so first thing I would say is like if you call yourself an influencer, you're probably not an influencer, or probably not somebody who has a lot of real weight, right? There were terms to with the same idea that were used back in the days, like an opinion leader, thought leader, this kind of type, and that is also somebody who, of course, has influence. But I think the creator is much closer to the opinion leader in terminology, just because the creator, first of all, creates, and that is what the person also identifies with. I mean, essentially, back in the days you wanted to maybe become a journalist and either write or be on the radio, and today kids want to be creators because that is the cool new word. But I think the creator is much closer to this, even though you don't have to be employed by a media organization, because you just go indie. Like
I,
in music, you're an independent artist, you go indie, you self-publish, you make the money, and then yes, you can of course still sell advertising and have this as your primary business model, and depending on the market and the niche that you are in, that makes a lot of sense. But also you have other tools. And when you said like so you said newsletters will become more important, if I understood you correctly, Nikola, to reach and sell to creators. But of course also newsletters became much more important for creators. See Substack as probably the prime
yep.
example, because people used to have blogs, but now blogs, for a variety of reasons, if not dead, then at least they shrunk in
Mm.
importance, and now people do a Substack.
Exactly, exactly. That's a great way of putting it. Great way. But you can certainly see the shift, right? Like you can certainly see the shift between just advertising and eyeballs, as Ron said, towards them becoming a
yeah.
full-fledged businesses, right?
Like Thomas, I kind of disagreed with one little small element that you said, where you said like kids these days want to be creators as opposed to influencers. I think it's actually the opposite. Like when I think about a lot of like my stepbrother, he's oh well shit, he's 20 now, but at one time he was 15, right? So I'll just take the 15-year-old version of him. He wanted to be an influencer. He didn't actually want to create content. He didn't want to put in the work. He didn't want to build like a systemized, like mechanically sound business behind content. He just wanted people to like him, look at his TikToks, watch his shit. You know what I mean?
And exactly, but that's the problem now, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the problem that creators are facing right now, and I think that's the biggest issue to solve is because the market is sort of forcing them to have the businesses where they only wanted the eyeballs,
Yeah.
or they just like they didn't even want the eyeballs, they just liked creating content for a specific topic,
Yeah.
and they just happened to become popular. So now it's a big issue, right? Like I think that's the biggest issue in the creator economy, that these people need to look at themselves as CEOs versus just um, comedians, let's say, or anything of the sort, right?
Yeah, we will
Yeah.
we will get back to this in a second, Nicola, because that's really interesting. I think I found a perfect way or comparison between the two, because probably, Ron, you may be actually right, because maybe there is a bunch of kids out there who want to get influencers first and foremost. But I think it's like the in the old world we are all fairly old, so let's put it in old people terms. So the influencer is the celebrity, and the creator is the person who actually does something for which the person gets the celebrity status. And yeah, some people want to be just celebrities, and for some it works out, like Kardashians or so. I think they pretty much wanted to be celebs, and they did manage to get it or become it. And then there are others who actually do. They are actors, musicians, and with the territory comes being famous. And I think that's probably the distinction in my book. I might be wrong, but in my book, that's the distinction
No, I
between
mean, I like
influencers
that.
and
It's kind of
creators.
like it's like the final form, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're a creator, and then you level up enough. You're like your final form is being an influencer. Makes sense. The
Yeah,
final boss.
yeah. So so but a good talking point, because why I was so happy to have you on is like there is a lot of development, and one issue you can probably elaborate on is of course a need for changing business models in the creator economy. And probably, so when you started in the space in 2016, what was the main thing you saw back then, and what is the main thing you see today, and what has led to this change?
So 2016 was, I think, that we were in the initial stages of influencer marketing to begin with. Like there were still people. I still remember the quotes that they provided us. Like people that had 30, 40,000 followers were charging us $20 per post. Now that's probably more close to 2,000 versus 20. So, but um, what we noticed back then, and why I think that it was a great industry and a great space that was developing to be in, is because these people were getting attention, and that's the most important part in marketing, right? Like if you have the attention, then you can leverage it in multiple different ways if you know how. But some of them would obviously know how. What I also saw, and I think we all knew it, right? But the media world and how we consume information was primarily going to be through creators. And that's definitely the case. Like I don't know what things were in 2016, but I know that I wasn't reading any big publications or watching TV for that matter or anything of the sort. Like I was consuming most of my information through
The
people
Rogan
that I
podcast.
yeah, right, like tech reviews from MKHDB, and a lot of different stuff that was just like entrepreneurship content, like Gary V, articles that were written from certain people. Like I wasn't engaged in their company or what they do in business, but I just loved them as what value they provided. Um, but back then it was advertising dollars, getting the eyeballs, and then that's it. However, once you start getting money, it's obviously that some of these people will be like, okay, now how can we get more money, right? Like how can we scale the content that we're producing? So the initial thoughts were eventually somebody's going to figure out how. I didn't know back then like what's going to be the involvement of the space, but I just knew that there's something there because you have the attention, you have the money. Now there's a lot of things to do, and right now I think we're peak, not peak. To be honest with you, I spoke with Gary Vee. I luckily I was very fortunate to meet him. When he said that, in his opinion, we're at the beginning stages of the creator economy. Like this thing has only just begun, which I agree. We're a little bit past the beginning stage, I would say, but really it's just beginning, where these people are finding multiple different ways through leveraging their attention, and companies that are working in the creator space are now, because again, sorry, for in order to be big, you need, in my opinion, two main things: distribution and code, to be able to scale almost indefinitely, right? If you have the distribution, but you have also companies that are willing to provide the code, like Patreon, for example, then you can just scale the eyeballs. Patreon, for example, I know we probably don't want to talk about that, but a community will scale with you, right? Like whatever that is. And it's an amazing thing to see because these people are now creating communities, newsletters, businesses. Like the Kardashians you mentioned, they were just getting advertising dollars. Now their makeup brand is worth what, 3 billion? That's crazy. That
Yeah.
that's really like crazy, crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we see it
It
with like
is.
Twitch streamers and stuff, right? They
Yeah.
partner with Corsair and other types of like merch brands if they don't want to make their own brands. And dude, they just pull in so much revenue from that. Thomas,
And
I don't know if you wanted to go in this direction, but I just had a quick question for Nikola. Um, it's kind of like I guess not a sensitive topic, but I'm sure you're familiar with like all the stuff that happened with the Fire Festival and how they like mishandled and misused influencers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that was, I want to say it was like 2016 or something like that, or maybe slightly after or
Yeah,
even before that. It might have even been before. But basically, just a little tiny bit of context for any of the listeners who aren't familiar. Um, there's like this pretty scammy dude launches a festival, utilizes a bunch of really high end influencers to promote it. Ended up not fulfilling on a lot of his promises. Kind of scammed a lot of people on all their money. There's a Netflix doc, you can check it out. And the entire like term of influencer marketing kind of got like a little bit of a connotative or bad rap. And you mentioned something in your introduction where like you wanted to focus, or you guys specialized in like how to create the proper mechanisms for influencers and for creators to like truly succeed. So I don't know, like what do you think about it? Did that like impact your business or anything like that, or like were you guys like, damn, yeah, we need to kind of like service the industry in like honest ways and actually provide the right consultation or consulting?
I I would correlate that, and you guys could probably add a lot more on this topic, but I would correlate that to the same thing that's happening in the Web3 and crypto
Yeah,
and anything of the sort. Like whenever something grows and it's a new thing, there I don't think it will ever stop. Like there will be bad actors who try to gain advantage of the system and use it in a bad way.
yeah,
What that shows me, though, same with influencer marketing, and I think same with Web3, is that there's something there, right? Like there's something there, but in the beginning stages, you always get
yeah,
those bad actors. It's just a matter of, does this provide long-term value? And if the answer is yes, then we'll eventually just eliminate the bad actors and then
yeah.
be prosperous again.
But I truly
Uh,
think things have changed from then, right? Like the
oh,
days where like
absolutely.
Kylie or Kendall Jenner would just post something on her Instagram. Like there was no actual connection to the brand. It's just like, here's money, promote it. I
Exactly,
think things have
exactly.
changed. Yeah,
And on that note, by the way, Thomas, sorry to interrupt you, but it's very connected to this. Very, very connected. One of the biggest beauty brands in the world, bound by an NDA, so I can't say. We're starting a project with them. We kicked things off literally 2 hours ago, where they're like, we really want to understand, because influencer marketing, the way that we are doing it right now, and they're spending hundreds of millions in influencer marketing. They understand that the space is changing, and onto your point, it's going to be more about delivering value and how that happens. So it's fascinating to me that even big brands are sort of realizing that and want to adjust their strategies.
yeah, definitely.
I
Thomas?
think, yeah, what I just wanted to add also is like, so you were talking about the earlier points of or earlier times of influencer marketing when people saw, okay, there were the eyeballs, but I think what happened since, and we saw it over the last roughly 10 years, I would say, everything else that used to have like massive audiences, like mass media age stuff, has eroded completely except for live sports. That is why these live sports deals go skyrocket so much, because they, at least some of it, not all sports, but some can still get these huge live audiences. But basically everything else has tiny audiences. So while creators grew, everything else that was mass media has shrunk to very small audiences as well. And I think nobody is better than these new creators or even smaller businesses who are made specifically for the digital environment. The value of being in a niche and growing in a niche and optimizing for it, because everything that came before was usually a bundle and not specialized in a specific niche, because you can go really down in niches, right? Like you can be somebody like Ben Thompson with stratechery, maybe one of the first guys and the prime example for going paid and subscription as a creator, and he does it with like analyzing technology companies and interestingly at a sub price of $10, not what you would say, hey, financial or business information needs to be hundreds of dollars. No, but he said, let's do it for 10 a month and go from there. And I think there is not a single person in the tech industry, the VC space, and everything akin to it who is not subscribing to Stratechery. So all that is to say, you have to understand your playing field, and nobody does it actually better than creators who are fully very well versed in this digital environment.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said
Yeah,
it better.
it's kind of the difference between using somebody in like a parallel industry. Like for example, a supplement brand uses like an influencer like a Kardashian to promote their supplements. Like, are the Kardashians really passionate about supplements? Do they know about stuff? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. And I think Thomas, kind of what you're saying, like you want to find like natives to those products or natives to that industry, because then it just feels natural. It's like somebody, promoting something that they already use or that they would use. Yeah.
And do
Exactly.
you And do you think, given Nikola, that you already work with brands, because you were just talking about this one brand that is apparently quite elaborate in the space, but there are also other examples. I was recently talking to a company. They have a big YouTuber they wanted to do something with, and then you check out the profile and you just see like it's a lot of repetitive bot comments, and you're super not sure about who this YouTuber is. But then you see who is doing campaigns with this person, where then my question became like, okay, probably many brands and decision makers in marketing departments do not quite understand the space yet, because you can just buy yourself a huge audience on a channel and charge massive prices for your ads, even though it's clearly, if you give it a bit of a closer look, you see that it's just pumped up artificially. What's the average brand's understanding of the space nowadays?
the average brand of understanding of space is still not that great in my opinion. What I started doing, and what I'm a big proponent of. And by the way, I don't know how to do this at scale, so I don't want to comment on big beauty brands because I don't know how to do that at scale. However, for a startup, one of the things that we did, even with my first app, which was 2015 or something like that, we didn't promote the business. We promoted my brother, my co-founder, that was sort of the face of our social channels, because people connect with people, right? And that's why, for example, on LinkedIn, where Thomas, you mentioned that you met us, the newsletter and any of our content is not published through the company page. It's published through my account. It's published through Kirill's, through Neta's accounts, right? And um, because I don't think I really think that you need those people that are passionate, you can connect to and sort of understand and trust to be the creators. I don't think big brands. Maybe they do understand that, they just don't know how to scale that. But there's some brands that have made um, great progress
I think
in that
so.
zone.
So I think fun fact. So my former boss, he is now focusing on corporate influencers, he calls it, and actually works with these big corporations who also see this change, who build exactly what you just said, these individuals from within their companies to be faces in different communities inside the organization and also outside the organization. So I guess they are slowly understanding that something has changed. But it's funny, the language you used, because it's I think like around the time when you were doing your first startup, I had this publication on Medium, attentionecono.me, and I wrote something where I used exactly the same wording. I said people will be following people and not brands, because they are interested
Yeah,
in people. And you saw this, so what you said just makes a whole lot of sense, actually. So
We even had a name. I know some companies even have a name for that. It's like chief evangelists and stuff like that.
yeah, something like that.
And it's like an
Something.
actual role. It's like, yeah.
So what I saw, even before thinking about it, and again going back to the Gary Vee example, but he's really the one that sort of inspired me to change the mind shift. Uh, it's he's the leading brand of the company. Like, yes, you understand that there's Vayner, but you also know that this is the person that
He's the yeah.
he's the guy, right? Like, he's
Yeah.
the guy. So and you could leverage that from a lot of aspects, and it's clear that he just uses that and all of those social channels to drive business for Vayner or any of the Vayner subsidiaries. But it's an amazing shift.
And he creates, I know that like Gary creates a lot of content that like speaks directly to his potential. I don't know, does it? Like, does his content speak directly to potential clients of VaynerMedia? Like, does VaynerMedia work with like smaller creators, or do they usually typically work with like big brands at this point? Do you know, Nicola?
So it depends on they have a lot of they have a lot of companies that they're working with. So it really depends. But one of the things that we did with Gary was find ways to leverage his network, i.e., his Instagram followers, to directly impact the businesses for a lot of the companies that he's managing, and it produced incredible amount of results, like just insane. So, for example, and I don't know if this was the actual case, by the way. I do know, but I know how in depth I can speak. Uh, let's say that Vayner Sports wants to onboard college athletes, right? You could find he has 10 million Instagram followers, maybe even more than that. You can find college athletes that are following Gary, or matter of fact, you can find college athletes or anybody that follows Gary and is connected to a certain college athlete that they want to onboard. So now you're just like one step from getting that referral, from getting that message and so on. So it's definitely, maybe it's not directly, as I'm not driving business directly. Like, I never said to Thomas, "Hey Thomas, come work with us," right? I just published my thoughts on the creator space and what we do and how we do it and so on, and it was just inbound traffic, which is the best. In my opinion, it's the best
by
thing,
far.
right? It's by far, yeah.
Own media. Yep.
That that is clearly the way. So if you look at the space today and all the environment that I think we now painted the picture of, if you are a say middling creator today and you do your thing on whatever platform, whether it's YouTube, Medium, or whatnot, and you want to go big, what do you think are like the top three things that you would give this random persona as advice if you want to succeed in this current landscape?
So, three things. I would focus on how do I what's my main platform, and how can I produce the best possible content on that platform. Let's say that I'm a YouTuber. I would most of my time will be spent on how do I make the best YouTube content ever. Then the second thing would be how do I get a team to distribute that content? So not me, but a team to distribute that content to other social media platforms. Because I don't want to do everything, right? Like, I don't want to be a YouTuber, but then also create short form video content, or write blog posts, or be on LinkedIn. I will be, but I'll definitely find a team that will be able to help me distribute my content to other social media platforms. And then the third thing will definitely be forming some kind of a long-term value outside of those platforms, whether that's whatever feels natural, like whether that's a community, is that a newsletter, any channel that I know that I won't be dependent on the big players in the space, because we've seen them come and go.
Yeah.
We've seen them fail, right? Like a lot of the Vine stars, for example, they're nowhere to be found right now. Uh, the US wants to ban TikTok, and that's a legit proposal right now in Congress, right? I don't know if it happened. If it will happen, maybe I don't think so. But if you have 10 million followers on TikTok and they ban it, like, what do you do?
Yeah. We just, funnily
So
enough, we talked yesterday about it. We just launched the second podcast format, Ask a Creator Economist, and there we discussed about hedging the risk of being on TikTok in light of, and we have similar discussions in Europe as well, right? So who knows if it
yeah,
happens, but it's definitely a risk. So in your recommendations, there was one aspect where you mentioned YouTube, and it raised the question to me, which also goes back to the point of Vine. So, of course, on a new platform that is just up and coming, it's quite easy to scale because you're one of the first creators on this platform. But of course, then you have YouTube with like the established size, the name. But it's also, I guess, so much harder nowadays to find your audience on this channel. So then it's the established place. Where would you focus on between, say, YouTube and an up and coming video platform if you wanted to do video?
in my opinion, there's no getting around YouTube. To be honest with you, like I would definitely try to experiment with platforms because there's a huge upside if you're right. If you're right, then there's a huge upside. Um, but right now, in this reality, right, like in this time that we're living in, and maybe that will change. That will certainly change. If I'm a video creator, I would definitely pick YouTube because just the organic
Yeah,
value
just go where the
is
people are.
Yeah.
You know the
but
people are already there. You know,
yeah, but that's really hard, right? Like for example, Ninja tried it. The streamer tried it with what was the name of the
Rumble,
Mixer
Mixer. Yeah,
Rumble.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Like they brought the biggest streamer from Twitch onto
Yeah.
Mixer. Didn't really matter. Twitch had the eyeballs, and many YouTubers tried that. Like many YouTubers that got banned from YouTube tried taking their community elsewhere. It's just not the same. Um, not the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, YouTube has like years, if not decades, of investing into UX and really optimizing it for the end user. And I think they still do a good job in aiding discovery. But and to your second point of teams that help you with distribution, which makes a lot of sense to me. But where would you look for such a team?
I don't know. I know a few people. One girl, Sherry from I think from Singapore, is building that. There's this one website called Hire. I don't even know. I know that Stir as a company is doing some of that. So there are companies in the space that sort of working towards enabling creators to build the right team. But I don't know. I would go to my own community. If I were a creator right now, I would go to my own community. And that's what I do for the company as well. Like when we hire, I go on my LinkedIn figuring out who has liked my posts, who's DM'd me something to try to find relevant people to join the company first, and then move on to just general um, hiring ads.
And these are the most natural like ambassadors of your brand and of your work, right? Because they are already interested, already following.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I honestly think that like Twitch streamers do it probably the best from what I've seen, especially like the more established ones.
Hmm.
They have like their mods, and their mods also run their subreddit. They run their Discord community, and it's like an entire ecosystem. You know, like in my opinion, Twitch streamers are like the prototypical like Web3 entrant. They're like the most natural Web3 creator. And I think if you're like a more traditional type of creator and you want to kind of start to build your brand and more geared toward Web3 being like a self-sustaining business, kind of like a decentralized like publishing house, you kind of have to look at like Twitch streamers. You got to look at the like huge Patreon creators who do similar stuff. I think it's like a good place to start, kind of emulate what they've been doing. Because when like you said, Nicola, at the beginning, like if you can build your own community on the side of whatever platforms you're already building on, it's literally worth its weight in gold. It's probably one of the best
Absolutely,
investments you can make. It's
absolutely,
just a community you
absolutely.
can tap endlessly. You can tap for insights. You could tap for new product ideas. You could tap for products. Yeah, it's
That-
just there's too much value in it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
But I also picked the channel. correctly, right? Because
Yeah.
here's the story. A short one, but it's the point that matters. I experimented. I don't know if you knew that or experimented with it, but at some point, I think I don't know what year was it. Facebook released Messenger as a platform, so they opened the platform up a little bit where you could subscribe to certain pages and be subscribed on Messenger, and you could send. Same way as email works right now in terms of newsletters and content and so on, you could do the same thing with Messenger. I grew a page in the span of 2 weeks, I think, and I have a blog post about that as well, to 80,000 subscribers. The open rates on the messages that I was broadcasting were 99%. The click-through rates were 35%. Insane, insane. You don't get that on any other channel. And I was super excited. I was like, holy shit, like this is incredible. But then they stopped. Then they decided, okay, you know what? If they haven't engaged with your posts in less than in more than 24 hours, then you can't send them messages. So it's like, then why were we all building this?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's brutal.
So so
Like you
that's
said, you just
also
got
a
to pick
problem.
the right one. It's like a penny stock. If you could somehow find an emerging platform that will pop off, it's like investing in a penny stock early.
True,
And
but pick the platform correctly, and
yeah,
and why I think that decentralization and why I think Web3 would be um, it is the way forward is specifically because of that, right? It's
yeah,
specifically because um, you're not you're not depending on what Mark Zuckerberg is going to decide tomorrow on literally about your life, because that's your life. Like you're working, that's your full-time job now.
yeah. But
Yeah, it
it
is.
makes me wonder, Thomas. I'll pass it to you quickly. I just had a quick comment. Like it makes me wonder because you mentioned Ninja, and I did think that was interesting because like people do follow people, but I think people are more interested in convenience first, right? So people love Ninja, but he quickly became not the only good Fortnite streamer. Like there was quickly other streamers, so a lot of his fans, I would imagine, from like an incentive point of view, were like, listen, Ninja, I love you, buddy, but there's like 12 other creators still on Twitch that I can, flip between their streams. Like, sorry, man, I'm going to stick to this platform where I know all my other, like, mouth breathing friends are going to be in those Twitch chats. So it's like, I agree 100% people follow people, but at the end of the day, like, people are also lazy.
Yeah, and
They
people
want
want
that
a good
convenience.
UI or UX, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I was never a big Mixer user, but I used it a bit, and I know Twitch, and I think Mixer was never on par with Twitch from a UI perspective. So
Yeah.
I guess that also factors in, because then convenience, of course, matters, and you don't want to learn a new platform as an end user. So
Or
that's
build up
certainly true.
karma points or whatever. Like you
Yeah,
might have built up a profile, on
yeah.
Twitch
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. The platforms are still valuable right now. I hope that will change. By the way, I really hope that it will. But let's see.
You
So
would need
so
maybe like an internet wide like persona, like a metaverse persona where you accrue points or accrue karma reputation on, and then no matter what platform you go
I
to,
mean,
you
I mean
carry
that's what
over that reputation.
that of course is something that we as Liquiditeam are working on directly, and many people are in the Web3 space. To if you once you decentralize identity and open identity, you can of course also have cross-platform identity, which is super interesting, like you say, because then suddenly you can have a reputation that is tied to your identity, which belongs to you, instead of having separate identities on all these platforms and having to start from scratch again once you're somewhere. So I guess it's only a question of time before we get to a world where we have some of these standards that are more popular with the users and also used and uh, supported by various other platforms and interfaces, because of course that doesn't make content publishing easy, but it makes using these platforms a much better experience for end users. Nikola, what I wanted to switch to is the other side of the equation, because you not only help and work with creators, but you also work with companies like ours who want to work and build solutions for creators. So what do you think are the key problems that creators nowadays have that a smart company who wants to build a good solution for creators could work on?
Uh, just to clarify, most of our work, 95%, is with companies that are creating products for creators. We rarely work with creators themselves.
Yeah.
Indirectly, right? Like we reach out, we communicate with creators, but it's not through our name. It's mostly for different companies. That being said, though, the reason why I'm excited. So again, more on a personal level, but um, in a startup, it's always there are always problems, always, and it's like every day another problem. Especially if you're the CEO, like you probably hear only the bad news in the company, and then the good news are, tap on the shoulder for someone else, not you. But no matter how bad the day gets, whenever I go to sleep, I feel like the industry has so many opportunities, so many problems to solve, so many things to fix. It's incredible the amount of solutions that can be done to improve the life of this new media um, uh, personas, or it's a new media, right? It's
Yeah.
so it's first of all, I think it's exciting, but then second, I also think there are a lot of things to solve, a lot. We talked about community. We talked about the tools they use. We talked about how hiring is done, educating them on how to become better CEOs versus just content creators. We're talking about content distribution tactics. All of that is a problem that should be solved. How do they monetize? How do you empower creators early in their journey? Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. We'll see, right? We'll see what the market says. But if somebody has 2,000 followers, do they monetize now? Do they work a full-time job, work creators on the side, and then monetize? What's the best way of doing that? How to bring transparency into how much they charge brands? How do you educate creators on how they start their own brands? A lot of things, a lot.
Yeah. I think the last aspect, I mean, of course, like we built our company on the hypothesis that more platform ownership uh, uh, is really vital, more decentralization in the creator economy, and easy ways to build the business, and not only being tied to one business model option given to you, granted to you by the platform you are using, but having various things available from subscriptions, NFTs, even advertising based option. That's our core hypothesis. And I think that is, you already talked about Web3 and how important platform ownership and de risking essentially is for creators. But I think trust in this space is also such a big problem and such a
Yeah.
big issue, because so the first order effect is that some creators promote some stuff that can be, we talked about, scammy, shady stuff they promote, but they also promote stuff where they don't mention that it is promoted, so trust erodes. But the second order effect is much bigger, because suddenly people just don't trust in their creators anymore, because there are no standards. Like in old school media, one thing that they had figured out is you need to have some standards and live up to those standards in order to not lose trust. And then, of course, individuals cannot have like the same due diligence processes that media organizations have. And there, I guess, is an interesting space where you could find solutions that would benefit the entire ecosystem.
Uh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And we spoke about trusting platforms as well, right? Um, I would just agree with you here,
Yeah, I think
100%.
Thomas. Like, I tend to agree, Thomas. But as you were saying that, like, trust is a huge issue. People know that, oh, this person's promoting a product. This is, they don't actually believe in it. But I don't know. I challenge that. Do you think most people are as adept as the three of us on this call? That we understand influencer marketing, we understand paid media, we understand sponsorships. I think like most people, they view posts, they're just like, oh, like this person that I love and I follow their content is pushing, these yoga pants. Like, I want those yoga pants. I don't care if it's promoted, if it's paid. I don't care if there's a factory in Africa making them. Like, I want them. I think
uh,
that's the most
that,
important. Sorry.
but that makes sense for now.
Yeah.
But going back to the bad actors, right? Um, Eventually, I think as there are and there will be bad actors in the space, uh, the not credible ones will lose trust,
Yeah.
and some others will gain it. You would never trust a Logan Paul for a crypto project now. Like that's gone,
Yeah.
right? Dusted. Boom.
But I wish that knowledge was more pertinent with consumers, with the users. Like, I think the users, they're, like I said, I don't know if the users are as adept as the three of us. They'll
I don't
keep
know if they
buying
have
those
to be.
NFTs. They'll keep trying to hatch those crypto zoo
But
fucking.
nobody is. I mean, but nobody. But that's. But Ron, that's clearly not happening. I mean, you
I
saw
hope. Yeah.
how bad. No, but you see it in NFT is the best example. Some creators promoted it and promoted shit projects, and now the trust in everything related to
Yeah.
NFTs and even the creators is so low. There are some creators they get less advertising because they
Yeah.
advertising money because they have a bad reputation now with their communities
But
because
Thomas,
they promoted some stuff. And I guess it, of course, the user and the consumer is not so adept, but there is the general the general impression now that many of these guys on the internet are just being paid dollars and dollars and dollars
yeah.
by brands. And so of course your trust erodes back in the days when people build audiences, then and then not in all cases, but in many cases, they just promoted stuff that they also liked themselves and that they were writing about on their blog or something, and that had a higher credibility. And now I guess that's gone.
Yeah. I guess it's just too easy to like, for example, if you're like an internet creator, I know the early days of like affiliate marketing, you'd be like, oh shit, like Bluehost actually has like a 50% affiliate commission. Like, I'm gonna push that. I don't care how good Bluehost is. Like, I used to push this other hosting platform, but the commission was lower. So I don't know. Like I said, Thomas, at the beginning, like, I tend to agree. I just think there's always going to be a different wolf in different sheep's clothing. Like, a different hidden scam's going to come. It's just going to have different clothes on, and people are going to be like, oh, and they're going to throw their money at it. So I just think that, like, it's the
True,
response. Yeah.
true, but it's same thing with brands, right? It's not just creators. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
the
for sure.
same
100%.
thing with brands, and same thing with everyone. I just hope that and really think that as a society we are getting better. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen in the next 10, 20 years maybe, but it will happen, right? It's happening to companies now. Like we, thanks to Glassdoor, for example, we know companies that are very shitty. They have a shitty culture. Nobody's applying, so it's
Transparency.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's we're moving forward. It's not going to be
I mean, Nicola,
immediate.
you have maybe some grandparents or even like a father and mother. I'm sure they've received emails that say, "Hey, you've won $1 million," and they click on the link, and then their
I
computer
I
gets
called.
infected.
I called. I was in the sixth grade. I called that number
Was it a Nigerian
with
prince?
with my mom. No, it was I was the 1 millionth visitor of whatever website that
Of
was.
course.
Yeah.
And like, what's going to be that for us? Because we're going to be those old geezers at some point. It's going to be like
Oh,
metaverse scam. Like,
where you get trapped
yeah,
for all eternity, sort of like the what was it? What was yeah? It's gonna be
Black
interesting to
Mirror
see.
episode.
Yeah, Black Mirror. That was I was looking for the name of the
Yeah.
series. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope the yeah, like I mentioned with the whole Fire Festival thing, like, there are, like you said, there's always going to be bad actors. I think, but there's always going to be value. If bad actors flock to an industry, that means that there's probably value, and that there's
Yeah, yeah,
probably good
yeah,
implementations.
yeah.
Scammers are
That's
smart, man.
yeah,
That's why
exactly.
they're
That's my way of distinguishing it, right? Like there were a lot of scammers. When you think about it on a company level, there were a lot of scammers in 2001. Like I was young in 2001. I didn't know a lot about that, but reading through what has been going on, like
yeah,
internet bubble, right? Like all those companies were worth nothing.
Same,
Yet
same.
the dot-com bubble.
Amazon came out of it, right? Like it was there's
Yeah.
definitely value.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
And I mean, you see, that is the best example. So there was a lot of fraud on like the credit card, the payment level. People were scared to purchase stuff online, pay online. Then we built out a whole lot of infrastructure that is trustworthy, that is much more secure. Not perfect, by far not perfect. Always bad actors, but it's much more secure. And now people just shop online, and that is really something that helps the entire digital commerce ecosystem, that we have like secure, trustworthy payment providers,
Yeah.
because now people just shop online a whole lot more. And I think something similar could come to the creator economy, as we now all call it. So Nikola, anything that we didn't talk about so far that you think is definitely noteworthy when we look at 2023 and the creator economy space?
Oh wow. I was thinking about when I first asked my mom to give me her credit card to buy something online and her reaction. So going from that thought to
My
to
mom still doesn't want to give me her. She still thinks it's unsafe.
do we
Yeah,
miss anything in this conversation? I think there are a ton of topics to cover. A ton. I just think that what we spoke briefly about is creator-owned brands, and I think that's in looking at 2023, 2024 as well. I think that's going to be a big thing in the creator economy. So because Mr. Beast, I think, proved that, and that's what I see, and that's what a lot of creators will follow. A lot of them will fail as well, but I think that's a huge topic
Yeah,
moving forward.
yeah, agreed. Well,
definitely
Nicola,
a good example here from Germany. We have like a bunch of rappers who partnered with drinks, mostly iced tea companies, or did it even themselves. And
That's
one guy,
interesting, by the way.
he's
You
called,
told me that
he,
story. It's crazy.
he's called Capital Bra, and he has made his own iced tea, and it was the best-selling iced tea, I think, in 2021 in all of Germany, by far outselling all the iced tea brands. And that is to me like the prime. And something else, that a rapper, and I mean, rappers in the end are just creators, especially in Germany. They have an interesting niche internet subculture. So the best-selling perfume at Douglas, which is like the biggest drugstore company over here. But drugstores here sell also all this like perfume and stuff. So she was doing by far the best-selling perfume, a German female rapper. So I couldn't agree more. And these are just these examples. Everybody now is like their merchandise lines, but to me the interesting part is really the commerce, where it's not only a t-shirt with your logo on, but where you create your own products or even solutions. More like Kayla, what's the surname pronounced? Istinides? I'm not sure, but
I think it's just fascinating rappers at Ice-T. Like you told me
yeah.
that, I can't connect the two. I don't know
How
how that happened.
ungangster?
Yeah, I'm gangster, right? Like
How much
it's
street cred did he get from that? Negative street cred? Hey, smart. There might have been a hole in the market, and he's like, why not fill it?
so like there is good stuff that you can find about this online, alas, in German, but it's the most prominent category of drinks among teenagers, and rap listeners are teenagers. So
ah.
so once so and they were buying these old fashioned brands, like we have Fana iced tea and so on, which they bought. But now suddenly there was this product where one of your favorite rappers just dropped in the lyrics, like, yeah, my brati, or whatever the others were called. And now it becomes, so suddenly you have a cool option endorsed by your favorite MC in one of the most favorite categories. Another example, like this other rapper, he took over tobacco for shishas. So he created a shisha tobacco brand, and now nobody buys any of the other brands anymore, just because there is a cool rapper promoted brand, and all the guys going to shisha bars here in Germany are listening to rap.
That's
Takeover.
amazing.
It is
Yeah.
smart.
That's
I mean,
that's
it's
amazing.
yeah, yeah, smart. It makes sense.
Yeah. So on that note, it was really a pleasure to have you on to dig deep in certain aspects of the creator economy, and I'm probably we will see you again on here.
Nicola,
Hopefully.
why don't you go ahead and plug the name of your company just one last time
Oh,
for any
it's
other creators, you know?
so thank you. But it's Influencers.Club. And yeah, so
Yep.
that's the shout out.
All right. Nikola, thanks so much, man, for
Well
joining
plugged.
us.
Guys, it was a pleasure. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure. Thank you.
likewise. For anybody who's still here with us this late into the podcast, if you did enjoy the video, please go ahead and give it a rating, give it a like, share it with a friend, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye, guys.